To those who hold dear, to those who hear my voice, Lord, protect them, grant them your angels, protect them. Alright, now open it up for you. Don't eat my plant. What is it? Peace and blessings, y'all. How you doing? This is your boy Gerald. It is Saturday, May 3rd, 2014. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope your week was as you desired it to be. You are able to stay in your boundaries and not allow negativity to consume you. You see your worth and you see your purpose. How you doing? Hey, I wanted to put this out here real quick. I hope I'm not winded. I just want to put this out. But I stumbled onto something that was very pivotal, and I wanted to share this with you if I could. Currently, I'm in school, as you already know, trying to embrace my journey, my purpose, so that once I'm done, I can add the accolade of Dr. Gerald Davis, psychologist. But it's a long way down the road because I'm in the beginning of my journey, but hey, it's a part of it, right? So how you doing? You doing fine? I hope so. I want to shout out to each and every one of you for allowing me to take a moment of your life. Just that moment. If I can put something in your spirit to give you some validation that you are on point, or you gather something that is conveyed from me to you that will plant a seed of growth in your purpose, then I'm humbled. I'm truly humbled. And because, I've come to learn something. When I embraced my spiritual journey 2 years ago, it's been 2 years now, I remember that the hardest thing that I had to come to grips was the perceptions of the things that I thought I knew, the understandings that made me who I am. And what I've come to understand, that your framework of what makes you you, it is formed by the connection that is found from your mother and your father. But what I also discovered is that if you do not have both understandings or knowledge of for whence you came, that's where the dilemma really is. That becomes part of your life lessons. And some can be very downright scary because it is actually formed from fear. Did you realize, or do you know, that the way you think, the way you act, The way that you deal with challenges that are being placed in your life are derivatives of your environment, but the foundation comes from your parents. Did you get me? The framework of what makes you you is based hereditarily from your parents. That is why it's very, very important that you know for which you came from. As you already know, we live in a society where the framework of having both mother and father in the home is not like it once was 30, 40 years ago. And that is starting to show major problems in the way we think, the way we navigate our lives today. From the spiritual realm, sometimes it is looked at or called the generational curse. But I like to believe that ideology is nothing but fear. So, I'm currently doing a paper, and I stumbled on this book, and I wanted to point this out because I feel that someone needs to hear this. If you're going through issues of validation, issues of abandonment, issues of trust, or issues of self-love, I want to encourage you to get this book. It will open up a lot of insight on why we do what we do. The book is called A Dad-Shaped Hole in My Heart. It's by H. Norman Wright. This is the book right here. Now, I'm not in a position to big up anybody, but I will say this. From reading this book thus far, I'm still reading it, opened a door of understanding and perspective with my life. Now, this book is actually for women that are suffering from the pain of not having the connection that you may have wanted with your father, or that significant role model. It is from a spiritual sense. However, the author points out a lot of examples on why we do what we do. Now, you could easily take the focus of the daughter-father dynamic and switch it to the daughter-son. Now, what struck me was that I've noticed a trend that 9 times out of 10, most problems that are experienced between the daughter-father dynamic is because the father does not know who he is. And unfortunately, due to social standards and bias, that's what causes a division, because you're not going to find fathers, for the most part, that are going to get together with other fathers and explain their problems. Why? Because fathers are deemed as the provider, the protector, the confidant, the peacekeeper, and all in all, the person that makes everything better. However, I also know, I've noticed that we live in a society now because of that connection is not there. It leaves a trauma in the individual that until you make the decision to go within yourself so that it can be addressed, allow the healing to take place, you will never come into your true purpose. You won't. The reason why I'm saying this is because there's a part of you that you still do not know. So, in essence, a lot of times we impulsively make choices that are derived from emotion. And you and I both know, when you make decisions based off of emotion, 9 times out of 10, you end up regretting it in the long run. So it's very, very important that you make a decision, hopefully today, that you are important. Your life means something. There's a reason why you're here. Do not claim the things that have set you back. Look a little deeper within your heart and be prepared for who you're going to be. Because see, we're all given free will. That is why you carry your name. You carry your name because your legacy is assigned to it. Did you hear what I'm saying? You are not a mistake. You never was. But it is your responsibility to allow the healing to begin. And you know what's sad about that? Is a lot of times because of social standards, or I look at it as distractions. We allow ourselves to be consumed on what everybody else is doing, than have the courage to look at what we need to do. Maybe sometimes because it is too painful to deal with. That is why a lot of people walk around on this planet with masks. On the outside, they've got the biggest smile, and it's only good until they go behind closed doors and they're hurting. Maybe that is sometimes, how many times have you seen this? You're at work and there's somebody you got to work with, but every day, it's like someone put pepper in their mouth. You know what I'm saying? You bright and early, but you bitter. Why? Why is that? I'd like to believe because that person doesn't see their worth and value, and that is a trigger. And that trigger is to protect themselves at all costs. A lot of times you will see that derivative as well, especially you, my queens. When you feel that you are not validated, if you feel that your worth is being challenged, what do? You raise the octaves. You become animated. You decide to take a position that it is not of your best interest, only to go home. Only to go home and regret the actions of moments past. That is not your purpose. You are a queen. And what does a queen do? She sits in virtue, because you are the bearer of nurturement. So you already come with multiple hats, because your higher power made you woman. But more importantly, he also placed strength and courage unlike any other. So my question to you is this: you gonna let your environment persuade you down that road that has no ending but pain? Or are you going to be still and start investing in you? Stop allowing your environment to dictate what your heart should feel. It is your heart, not the environment. But so many times, we as people, it is easier to adapt to what the status quo is, except not using proper judgment in our own interests. Which in turn, what happens out of that? You become victimized. Why? Because you are afraid to step into your own purpose. You're afraid to define yourself. So instead of rocking the boat, you go down the stream, not knowing that that stream has rocks in it. It has debris in it. Or even worse, there's a waterfall with no bottom. That ain't your purpose. When you decide to tap into yourself, sometimes it just may mean that you need to check out of your environment for a little bit so you can get yourself together, which is nothing but a derivative of redefining what matters to you. What you need, not what you want. Because trust me, the things you want going to be there. But guess what? They were there before you even took your first breath. And they're going to be there after you're gone. Because it has no merit. It is not important. It is nothing but a pitfall, only to take you away from your journey. But see, I can't do the work for you. God knows I wish I could. God knows I wish I could. But see, my name is Gerald Davis, and I love myself. And I know that there are things that I too have to work on because I'm human. And so that I can say that, I can also say this. We are all flawed, where we don't have to be. Because when you decide not to embrace a position of fear, you will actually see how strong you really are. You will actually see what really matters. You will actually know what you got to do. So, when are you going to make that choice? You know, it's funny because, like I said, when I stumbled on this, I really believe in synchronicity. And when I got my hands on this book, it took a struggle to get it. But when I got it, I'm glad I did. And here's another thing. Let me throw this disclaimer out here too. If you know somebody that is going through relationship issues, 9 times out of 10, they're going through these issues just because they don't know who they are. They don't. It's not a means of being disrespectful. It's about fact. And we attract those that have a commonality or a chemistry about who we are, a like-mindedness. But ask yourself this: if you're not happy and you're attracting a certain type of individual in your life and you know that doesn't work, you've got to question yourself, why are you doing it? Why? Do you not see your worth? Do you not see your value? And what happens? A lot of times, because of fear, we settle. We settle because it is our reality. But guess what? You should be in a place that it should feel like air. It should not feel like pulling teeth. So that is why I tell you, I convey this to you, my queens. It is not your place to go search for a man. It is not. And I'm not saying it out of disrespect. I'm saying it out of your value. The reason I tell you this is because the person that is divinely meant for you will supply you with everything you need, not what you want. It should spark growth in your intellect They should always want what's best for you. And they will not, I repeat, take a position to be malicious, controlling, or downright vindictive. The reason I say that is, see, did you know that your personality is actually forged from your father? Did you know that? Yeah. I know some of you are saying, well, Gerald, I was raised by my mother, and I didn't have a relationship with my father, and I still run into these problems. You run into these problems because you don't know who your father was emotionally. He's the key to unlocking why you think the way you do. So, in other words, he is the doorway to your other self. Now, you may say, well, girl, my dad was nothing to me. He wasn't there. He didn't give me what I needed. And I went through all these problems with men. The reason why you went through this, my dear, is because he didn't know who he was. And I bet you 9 times out of 10, no one taught him how to be a man. He may have had a poor example. Not to make excuses, because once again, we have a choice. So to my kings, I will highly, highly convey this to you. If you're having issues with your daughter, if you're having issues with your significant other or your spouse, you really want to understand her mind, how she thinks. Invest in yourself first, and then invest in her. If you're having problems if you there's a local colloquialism or slang that they call it an old wives' tale. They say that when a man has only girls, it's because they have been placed in his life to teach him the lessons from his misdeeds, or more or less to humble him. That's why it's by nature that a daughter has her father in her little palm. Why? Because she can see into his soul, because she is from him. So, if you want to have a better relationship with men, understanding men, I highly, highly recommend investing in your relationship with your father. If you do not have a relationship with your father, if you want those pains and traumas that you've gone through to end, he is the key to that. Now, in regards to men, you may think, well, Gerald, what about all these men that were raised by their moms? I'm going to say this with love. Number one, that is not a responsibility that you were meant to carry on your own. You weren't. You weren't. However, what I've come to do during as I was doing a report, I found out that most single parents, will you get out the way? Most single parents, single moms, by the census that they did a census in, it was 2009, 65% of single moms prefer not to have any connection with the father. Now, this is a choice, but it is a derivative of an emotional trauma that was through them. The reason why it even took place is because they didn't know each other. That's why you always hear the derivative, you've changed. No. You didn't know each other. How can you know him if you don't even know yourself? So it's time that you invest in you. Not to ramble. To my kings. If you have a daughter in your life, or you have a daughter and you're not in her life, because time has passed, until the air is expelled from your lungs, keep continuing trying to be in her life. It's never too late. It isn't. It's not going to be easy. But guess what? Your higher power, I know him as my Lord Jesus Christ, heals all the wounds. And while you're in the midst of this transition, you invest in yourself as well. You work through your issues. Take away a position of judgment. A lot of times, because of guys, let me tell you something, ladies, you might not realize this, and I'm not trying to be a cheerleader for the fathers, because there's a lot of fathers out there that don't know how to be fathers because they're boys. They're boys because they didn't have the proper tutelage from their upbringing, and it is a byproduct of their environment. So, what I'm saying to you is this. The worst injustice you could ever do, hear my words, the worst injustice that you can do if you have a son is to keep him from his father. Now, I'm not saying that to bag on you. I'm saying this for a reason. He has to know who he is. And at the divine time and moment, he will make the decision if he wishes to continue to have that bond with his father, his biological father. Until he knows who he is, he will be lost. No different than the little girls that are out here. You've got so many little girls out here that are starving for love and affection at all costs. They're willing to give what they only know of value, and that's their body, which sets up a perpetual pattern. That's not the life to live. And guess what? That is also the essence of what we know spiritually is a generational curse, because you're going to only go off the environment that you know. So if you're not fully armed or educated with not only knowing yourself, how can you have a successful life? You can't, because it's going to haunt you. That's why it's called emotional baggage. Now, I'm almost getting ready to break 30 minutes, and I don't want to do this, but I highly recommend y'all that you take a look at yourself. I want to share this real quick and give you some examples of what I'm talking about. Oh, by the way, the number one fear that most fathers have that have daughters is the definition of what a provider is. Because society projects one thing, but you and I know that it's not. What is love? What is anything without love in it? Nothing. It has no value or worth. And your children are extensions of you, because you are the ones that plant the seeds for their development and growth. So it's very important that you get you right. Love yourself. That is why we have people out there that prefer to be serial daters, never taking the time to reflect on where they've been, what the experience brought to them. I'm gonna share this poem to you, okay? If I could. I want to leave this. Society has a negative well, first of all, society doesn't want children to have both their parents in their lives. They don't. This is nothing but conquer and divide. We already know that, because if I can get you to fight amongst yourselves, you will not be united together. That's why the courts are the way they are. That is why we're having problems, because there's no love in it. But I want to share this poem to you. I think this is for someone, and I hope you take this into consideration. Once again, the book is called A Dad-Shaped Hole in My Heart, and it's by H. Norman Wright. So if you're going through some issues that has to deal with relationships, listen, you can't have a fruitful relationship with anyone until you have a relationship with yourself. And on top of that, if you don't have a relationship with your higher power, which I know him as my Lord Jesus Christ, because he's going to be the one that's going to heal your heart. And to walk through life without love, that is a life that is not fulfilled. And you deserve to keep that smile on your face, that gleam in your eye, and just know your life matters. So here's this poem that he put in the book. You are not an accident. Your birth was no mistake or mishap. Your life was no fluke of nature. Long before you were conceived by your parents, you were conceived in the mind of God. He thought of you first. He custom-made your body just the way He wanted it to. He also determined your natural talents that you will possess, your uniqueness, and your personality. Most amazing, God decided how you would be born. Regardless of the circumstances of your birth or who your parents were, God had a plan in creating you. It doesn't matter whether your parents were good or bad or indifferent. God knew that two individuals who possessed the right genetics to make up and create the custom, that being you, He had in mind. They had the DNA God wanted to make you, and God never does anything by accident. You are not a mistake. He has a reason for everything He creates, and God was thinking of you even before He made the world. This is how much God loves you and values you. So remember, you have a purpose. You got a job to do. But you can't see what your true calling is until you start loving on some you. And that doesn't mean that it's coming from being bitter. It doesn't mean it's being spiteful. It doesn't mean it's a place of manipulation and control. Because I'm going to tell you something, y'all. The energy that you put out comes from your heart. Your reality, your environment, it comes from your heart. So, if you got drama going on right now in your life, look within yourself. Change that. When you truly decide enough's enough, get back to yourself, I'm telling you, watch who walks out of your life, wish them well, and watch what God does and brings in your life and motivates you. Some of you don't even realize that how blessed you really are. You know how they said, what is a man to inherit the earth by the cost of his soul? We are living in those days right now because society wants to put so much emphasis on material wealth. But the funny thing about it is nothing but a tool. It is nothing but a device. It is nothing but a means of motivation that you can't take with you. So when are you going to see your worth? When are you going to stop living life in denial? When are you going to stop doing this? Because you know when you do this, you got 4 fingers pointing back. And do you realize when you live a life of judgment, you are basically putting yourself on blast to be judged? Why? Why is that? I'm going to tell you what. I hope God grants me the serenity to live long enough that I can see my queens claim their worth and say, well, you remember all these women, they were so insecure of their beauty that they hid it. Why? God ain't make no mistake. He made you you. You're the exception to the rule. You're meant individually to be yourself. Not like her. Not like him. There's only one you. So when you gonna claim your life? When you gonna speak your truth? Do you realize you are loved? You are so loved. People love you so much. The bottom of the sea can't measure how much love is felt for your life. But it has no value until you claim self first. Make this the day that you decide that you matter. It's time to reel it back in, y'all. And that's when you'll know how strong you really are. That's how you'll know what you need compared to what you want. But that's okay. Because I'm also a firm believer that the devil's work is never done. And right now he's winning. But hey, it's short-lived. Because all things are through our Lord Jesus Christ. So I have faith in you. So, not to ramble, I wanted to share this with you guys. Like I said, this book right here, it'll change the way you think. It's a short read. It's only like about 160 pages. But I'm going to tell you what. Matter of fact, you can actually find it on Amazon, get it secondhand for like $6. Come on now. How much your life worth? And for you fathers, it's not easy being a dad, especially to a young queen. But your presence is needed. That is what's wrong with the world today. As easy as it is, people want to tap away, tap out, or not claim the things that are difficult. But I'm also a firm believer that for every setback is a setup, and sometimes you must break down so you can break through. The 2 valuable names you will ever have on this planet is mother, father. Don't take it lightly. Don't. Alright, y'all. I hope you have a blessed weekend. Thanks to everyone that has taken the time to hear my words. Remember, you're loved. You're loved. And better days are ahead. But they start within you, okay? So don't worry about that foolishness. Sidestep it. Embrace your purpose. And watch how your life changes. It's time. It's time. So as I always say, God is praying for you. You know I am. I see your worth. And for that, I discern with mine. You too, huh? He does too. You have a blessed weekend, y'all. Stay blessed.